If you're actually already starting to save money or even thinking about it, chances are that the local bank you're using currently gives you close to 0% interest annually, or 0.01 or 0.02%, which is literally close to nothing, but the top 10 high yield savings account I'm gonna show you will give you between 4.35% and even over 5. Now, if for some reason you don't think that makes that much of a difference, here's a quick example on $10,000 deposit. So your interest in the local bank will most likely be between $10 and $20 a year. However, in the high yield savings bank, with the same $10,000 deposited, of course, will be between $435 and even $500. And this is exactly the reason why, if you're not investing the money into the stocks, then you should definitely consider high yield savings account. Now, all these banks I'm gonna mention, they're FDIC insured for up to $250,000. And also, and this is very important, they don't have any minimum deposit requirements, so you can literally open these accounts with zero money and then transfer the money you want to save at your own pace. Now, one thing with these banks is though, they usually don't have like local branches per se, and that's why they're able to give you this higher interest rate, because they have less employees and etc. But with that being said, you will need your regular checking account, for example, because you will need to link these two accounts, meaning your bank's account, which is checking, to the new high yield savings account, and this is how you're gonna be able to transfer the money between the banks, whether transferring the money to the high yield savings account, or obviously if you need to, transfer the money back to your local account. And now, here's the top 10 high yield savings accounts. So first we have the Barclays savings account. The rate is 4.35% annually, and that's of course with zero minimum deposit, which is great. By the way, sorry to interrupt, when I was editing this video, I actually realized that I have to mention something very important. So long story short, this interest rate for all the banks I'm gonna mention is variable, meaning it can actually change at any time, depending on the market of course, but this is the actual rates in these banks today. And now let's go to the other savings accounts. Number 2, and this is the bank I use, and that will be 360 Performance Savings Account by Capital One. So the rate is also 4.35% annually. The next savings account has even higher interest rate, and that's 4.6% annually, and that's from the SoFi Bank. Then you have the Synchrony Bank with really awesome rate, which is 4.75%, and that's pretty high to be honest, but it gets better. The bank number 5 is the Javia Bank, and that's with 5% annually, which is definitely nice. Then you have the Laurer Bank with also 5% annual interest, and as I've mentioned before, to get this interest rate, all of these banks in the list don't require any minimum deposit. Well, obviously the more you deposit, the more money you're gonna save, but it's not required to get that rate. Next, you have the Basque Bank, and that's with 5.10%. Then there is another savings account with 5.1%, and that's the Genius Bank. There is also one more bank with the same interest rate, which is 5.1%, and that's BMO Alto. But keep in mind, this bank is relatively new, so that bank, or at least that kind of account in the bank, was created last April. So that's just something about this bank you need to know. And then before I'm gonna tell you the last bank, I found some other 2 good options for the savings account, so I'm gonna show them in a second. But now number 10 bank is the Everbank, and the rate is 5.15%, which is absolutely amazing. Now the reason I've said there is these 2 other banks, and I didn't include them in the top 10 list, because for the 2 banks I'm gonna mention right now, there is actually minimum deposit. And these banks are, first is the CIT Bank, which gives you a rate of 5.05%. However, even though this is a great rate, but you need minimum of $5,000 deposit, which I know might be hard for a lot of people. And then finally, you have the highest interest savings account, which is at 5.35% annually, and that's really awesome. But then again, to earn that interest rate, this bank requires $500 minimum deposit. Now, I can't really tell you which bank to choose. Obviously, that's your own decision. The only thing I can say, these 4 banks sound more familiar to me. That doesn't necessarily mean that the other banks are not good or anything like that. It's just that I heard these bank names more often than the others perhaps. And personally, I use Capital One, even though it's not the highest interest rate, but I have actually a few good personal reasons for it, which I'm gonna share in the next video. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was helpful, and you might want to check this video next, because there is good info in it too. Cheers!